Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast where conversations about wealth go deeper. This isn't about flashy success or one-size-fits-all advice. It's about real people designing financial lives that align with who they are, what they value, and the legacies they're building. We bring together voices from business, finance, law, and leadership to talk about the moments that shape them and the strategies that sustain them. Here is your host, Chris Everett.
Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, where money meets meaning and purpose. Today, we have an absolutely incredible story that will challenge everything you think you know about business. Not only business success, but success in marriage. So this powerhouse couple behind a Chicago-based area cleaning company has experienced explosive growth, jumping from a stagnant $250,000 in revenue to over $1.2 million, and they're moving toward $2 million very quickly. But here's the thing. Their business breakthrough didn't happen because of new marketing strategies or operational efficiency. Not that those things are not important, but it happened because they got radically honest about their marriage. For the first 5 years of their marriage, they were running separate businesses, living separate financial lives, and slowly drifting apart despite sharing the same house, sharing the same name. He was hiding business failures and mounting debt, creating an elaborate facade, rather than seeking help. She was operating from a place of disconnection and growing resentment, not knowing what was really happening, but sensing something was deeply wrong. Then came a pivotal moment that changed everything. A moment of complete surrender, radical honesty, and the kind of breakthrough that only God can orchestrate. Not only did their marriage transform, but their business, immediately began to flourish in ways they never imagined possible. So today they run a business with nearly 40 employees, are expanding to multiple states, and have launched a second business together in real estate investment. But this isn't just a business success story. It's a redemption story. It's about what happens when couples stop hiding from each other and start building something beautiful together. And it's about the intersection of faith, finances, and authentic relationships. And it's proof that sometimes the biggest business problems require a spiritual solution. So this couple's journey will inspire anyone who's ever felt stuck, whether in business, marriage, or both. And their story demonstrates that breakthrough often comes not from working harder, but from getting real about what's really going on beneath the surface. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and get ready for a conversation that might just change how you think about success or partnership and the power of radical authenticity. With all that said, please welcome my guests, Carlos and Julie Muñoz from TMP Janitorial. Carlos, Julie, welcome to Beyond the Numbers.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. We're super excited, and it's an honor to be a part of this podcast and sharing our story. And hopefully that brings inspiration and breakthrough along the way to your audience.
That's right. So how did we even first meet, the three of us?
Yeah, we had interacted at church in similar circles, and we took a class, a love after marriage class, right after we were married, and the instructors, we ended up connecting with them after the class was over, and in sitting down with the instructors who also know you and have utilized your financial services, recommended your business, Everett Wealth Solutions, to us as we were newly married and in business and growing as a couple. And so we reached out to receive your advising services, and I'm so grateful for the connection that she had made.
It's been a pleasure working with the two of you and just seeing the expansive growth that you have now, not only in business, but in your marriage. So it's a sweet savor. So let's start at your beginning. So how did the two of you meet? Was it love at first sight?
I like to say for me, it was, but I always say, like, do you want to hear the long version of the short story version? And she's really good at condensing things. So I'll let her
Well, we only have an hour, so
It was attraction at first sight. I'll say for both of us. We again similar at church. He kind of saw me across the room. A month later, I think I saw him across the room. There was interest. We ended up kind of accidentally sitting by each other one day, and then had our first kind of one-on-one hangout. And I quickly thought, nope, he's not the one for me. But there was a wise leader who saw me, post 30 years old, and maybe I didn't know everything there was to know. He said, how can you know after one time? Give it six dates. You need 6 dates. I thought that sounds like a lot, but we only needed 3. I said, give him another chance. And after a few times hanging out, we knew that there might be something here.
She fell in love like on the second day. She's not going to tell you that. I knew from the very early on when I even saw her, I'm like, I'm going to marry this girl one day. And lo and behold, we're about to actually celebrate 8 years here on September 29.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. She's like fully pregnant.
We're excited for a third baby. Absolutely. So, Carlos, you mentioned creating a facade instead of seeking help when business got tough for you. This was early on in your marriage. So what was going through your mind at that time when you were struggling so bad? And what were you afraid might happen if you really told Julie the truth?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. If I can maybe summarize it, I would say for me, it was just like I was consumed with a lot of fear, right? It's, there's this acronym, when we see fear and what it stands for, it's, I'm drawing a blank here, but
False evidence appearing real.
thank you, false and real, right? And so, like, to me, it was just like I've been like in business for a while, even before meeting Julie and stuff. And so, through the course of things that happened and COVID and stuff like that, the logistics company wasn't doing as well as it should have. At this point, I was just afraid and consumed with how would she react to that, because I'm supposed to be the provider. I'm supposed to be the man of the house. We were just pregnant with our first one, or maybe she was already probably born. And I just like, I wanted to just confide in my spouse and tell her what was really going on, but I just didn't feel safe. And I just started believing lies that I needed to have it all figured out, in order for me to like present it to her in a pedestal, instead of just, admitting to my weaknesses. And I didn't really actually have the language to even like know and recognize all what's going on for me, even at that time. Right. So all I knew is that I was struggling, and I didn't know how to approach my wonderful wife during that time.
So, Julie, yeah, fear, exactly. Yeah. Julie, there was a moment when you decided to surrender everything to God. And on that very same day, everything came to light, which is so fantastic, right? So can you walk us through that day, just like what it felt like when the truth finally came out?
Yeah. If I could try to paint a picture before. So we're about 4.5 years into marriage. When we got married, he had a business. I started my own business. So we're operating 2 different businesses, really working hard on our marriage, but experiencing disconnect. Again, as he had mentioned, he was living in fear and creating a facade. And I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And so I just was living with a lot of suspicion, a lot of resentment, maybe not feeling connected, not feeling like there was trust there. So just I was mounting in fear as well. And I think my first response in those initial years was just to try to control everything and kind of make things work as much as I had access to. And there was a day that I realized I had not been trusting the Lord. I claimed to be a Christ follower, and I know that he has solutions for us, but I wasn't seeking him for solutions. I was really trying to make it all right myself. And in that was creating more increased lack of safety. As he mentioned, he didn't feel safe coming to me because I was seizing more control. And there was finally a day that I feel like the Lord just convicted my heart. It just became clear. Like, if I say that I'm trusting somebody else outside of me to help us, then I need to start trusting him. And so there was a moment I just decided I'm going to stop trying to fix everything, trying to change him, and trying to take control. And no matter how people act around me, it is my job to trust the people that I love and trust the faith that I claim, and let somebody else take care of things. And so I decided, like, today I need to make a decision to release judgment, release my own fear, and trust somebody bigger than me.
What a monster fear is, right? So so crazy. I mean, Carlos, you're digging in deeper into camouflage, and Julie, you know something's going on. You just don't know what it is. And so obviously fear attaches itself to you. And then of course you're going to try to stay in control. And whoa, my Lord.
Right. And then of course I have an adverse reaction to like being controlled, right? Because like I'm still just like, wait, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like even though like I'm like a complete mess, right? But I'm still resisting this, right? Because I'm trying to prove a point, and really all I needed to do just be vulnerable with her, right? And like, and not only just obviously with her, but to trust the Lord, that the Lord had me, and the Lord was going to do something in us by me actually confessing and coming clean, to then start healing from some of that.
Yeah. And for people listening who don't have a relationship that you have with the Lord, where you're listening and you're really trying to submit to that counsel, which is at such a higher level, it might seem silly, right? It almost might seem impossible. And frankly, it can be if you don't have that, supernatural insight that you can get when you just ask for it. So talk us through the change, the moment that everything just said, that where fear had to bow. Tell us that.
So let me just interject, because you talked about kind of like the moment that you were experiencing. Around the same time, it was like the exact day, if I can say, it was like a day at church on a Sunday. The Lord just like convicted my heart through events that happened with certain people at church, and I just came to repentance with the Lord, and at this point I'm like serving at church. I'm like I was in charge of some youth stuff, and I instantly get convicted, and Julie would say like she saw me from, I think, outside. I think you mentioned just like my whole kind of like posture and demeanor had changed, because I knew that I needed to come to a realization with the Lord and her, that this is my moment of actually confessing to Julie what was really going on, right? And so we had planned that we're going to have a little outing. We're going to go to a museum with our kids, and that quickly changed from me getting some counsel with my pastor and saying, hey, like, this is what's going on. Like, I need some prayer. I need some advice. And he pushed me to do the right thing. And I'm so grateful for my brother for doing that. And we went straight home. What's really, really wild is that we went on our porch and we started talking, and Julie can feel more on that. But like our kids, like the Lord was in the whole process, because our kids fell asleep for 4 hours. like this is just like
a nap. They actually napped.
They had a long
time. If we had space.
If they had space to talk. It was like,
and that's what we had.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
So what I'm hearing is you were at church and you get to that place where you're like, I can't do this anymore. You repented. And you repented, meaning you changed your mind, right, about staying in fear. Because really that's what repentance is, right? You got to come up with a new mind. But you mentioned because you were working with the children. What did you mean by that?
I mean, I was serving in youth, right? So this is me.
I think the unique thing is we were not together today. We were not sitting by each other at church. We did not enter together. He came and he was working with youth outside. I was sitting alone in the back, just so angry, because that was my MO for 4 years, just mad all the time. And there was a triggering event that day, and it impacted me with saying, I need to let this go. I cannot leave this place today with holding on to this, with believing these things about my husband, with suspicious all the time. I need to let it go. And at the same time, in a different location, because I noticed him later, he was just completely slumped over, and he was experiencing the conviction of, I need to tell her everything today. So it was just really cool that we both experienced, I think, an invitation to something different.
When you talk about the supernatural intervention, like, see, I was a divine appointment, and it was just like, it was amazing. Like, it really was a lot of breakthrough and freedom on my end. And we can talk about that if that's where we're heading with this. But
right. Well, what I'm seeing, or hearing rather, is you got to the place where if you were not authentic, it wasn't going to work anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just like, it was down to like everything, right? Like,
well, your first phone call was to a good friend that you trust, our pastor. Right. And he said, if you want to save your marriage, you tell her everything today.
Okay. So here you are at home now. The kids are sleeping for 4 hours. Tell us about that.
He just said, I have to talk to you. And I said, I know. I think I knew, like I was waiting for this moment. And we went to the porch, and we had been still working on our marriage and connecting through a tool that we learned called the core emotion wheel. We learned about it.
So hold that up for 1 second. What's on that wheel? Let me see. Anger, shame, guilt, fear, lonely, sad, hurt, joy. Okay.
So we had tried therapy and it made things worse, but this wheel was something we could do in 4 minutes in a day, where we say what is happening inside of us and try to get out of me telling them what to do or being reactive to things, but just to say what is happening inside of us. And then the other person just being able to receive and ooh and oh, okay, I hear you, and just get stuff out.
Well, what a difference from traditional therapy is what I'm hearing, because in therapy, you spend a long time talking, right? Back and forth. And I'm not poo-pooing therapy, but this connection code, which is what it's called, gives you each 2 minutes to talk to one another and express how you're feeling. So you used that tool in this space that was created on that Sunday.
Yes. Otherwise, that conversation would be so scary. Where do you start? So I think we went outside and you probably used one of some of these.
Yeah, if I can actually just model like in real time, as if this was actually the conversation that I had with Julie and some to my knowledge or like my recollection of how it went down. But we, at this point, we're working on emotions, especially for me. Like my only emotions really, where I'm angry all the time or maybe happy and sad, right? Like I didn't have a grid for some of these emotions. So I'm going to just go in and just like, if this is happening right now, and the ministry would say, you look at your partner in the eyes and there's no fear in her trying to fix it. Just like, she's just going to ooh and ah me. But okay, great. I would say, hey, I actually have a lot of fear right now, confessing what I'm going to tell you. And so I'm just consumed with a lot of fear. But I have a lot of, sadness, because what I'm going to share with you, it's going to be upsetting, and I'm sad that I had not mentioned this to you before, so please forgive me. And I am experiencing a lot of hurt right now because as a godly man, as someone that needed to guard your heart and myself as well, I caused a lot of hurt and a lot of distrust in our relationship, and experience a lot of anger because I'm angry at myself, where like I should be better. I allow myself to get to a place where I just put up a lot of walls. And so it just brings a lot of anger in that. And I'm angry that you were not trusting me, and for good reasons, but I was angry all the time. And I also just have a lot of guilt. I have a lot of guilt that I brought this for a disconnection. I feel extremely guilty right now. But at the same time, I have a lot of shame because as a person, as a husband, as a father, I've allowed some of these lies to enter into our connection, our relationship. And so it's consumed with a lot of shame and lonely. And I would say lonely for you, because how lonely that could have been. You were experiencing a lot of loneliness, and I was not really receptive or sharing what was really going on with me. And so I'm sorry for that. But I also have a lot of joy right now, because I feel that there's going to be a lot of breakthrough and a lot of freedom on my part. And so I'm experiencing a lot of joy, even though this is a very hard thing to release. Yeah.
Do my audience a favor. Can you take us back to that moment and just really model how you used that circle and every one of those words on the circle?
Oh, yeah. I'll try. As you know, well, I would say the ministry would say that we look at each other. Right? So this is happening in real time. And so all Julie has to do is just ooh and ah me and not try to fix it. Because for a while, we're good fixers. And this is a healing moment for us. So I'm going to say as with the actual day.
Yeah, pretend we're not even here. No one's watching.
Go ahead.
And then I would say, hey, babe, I have a lot of fear right now because we're here. We're not at the museum. We're supposed to take our kids. So I just have a lot of fear because what I'm going to share with you, it's going to impact you and it's going to impact our connection. And so just stay with me. I have a lot of guilt right now because what I'm going to tell you has been a result of a lot of decisions that I made and has gotten me to the point where I'm like, I need to really have freedom from this. And so I have a lot of guilt because I have not really shared this with you, and it's been a while. And at the same time, I just have a lot of shame because as a godly man, as a husband, as a father, I feel that I fail. I fail you, and I fail our marriage. And so, yeah, just consumed with a lot of that. And I also am really, really sad because I'm sad that I allowed this to come between us. I'm sad for the outcome. And I'm also just completely consumed with a lot of hurt because I've been hurting a lot inside, and I haven't been able to share that with you. And for reasons that we already explained, and not feeling safe, and but I'm convicted now, and so I want you to hear my heart. And I also, at the same time, I can only imagine the loneliness that you've experienced during this whole time as well. And please forgive me because I now see that, and I see you. And I would say, in a very weird way, I feel a lot of joy right now because telling you what I'm about to share with you, it's going to be very healing for our connection. And so it brings a lot of joy, regardless of the consequences.
All right. Ooh, thank you for sharing. Knowing some of what you may share, but not all, my first response truly is joy that we'll have clarity and we can begin to heal. So thank you. I do feel hurt that this didn't happen a long time ago because I felt very lonely. As I think about time lost, I feel really sad about that. And I have fear that rebuilding trust and the journey after this might be difficult. I fear too of what you might share, but mostly, as I said, joy that I won't have to make things up in my mind anymore. We'll have clarity today. I also have guilt for my decisions and my response and not being a safe place for you, and shame that I did not live by my convictions earlier and give you space.
Yeah.
I haven't been the type of person that would give you the space to feel safe, to be free earlier. And I do have anger. I've lived with a lot of anger about the consequences of these decisions. And it's hard not to just, I sometimes feel anger, but it is probably truly more sad and lonely. Yeah. So the anger, there's been a lot of anger. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where, but I am hopeful that can begin to subside.
Yeah. And I share your anger. I don't know if I even said that, but I'm angry at the whole thing. So I would say that I hear you and your anger.
Wow. So really, in under 4 minutes, what I saw occurring was a coming together of two people willing to listen to one another in a new way, almost things falling off of you to be able to be open to listen. So you did that, and then you shared what you were actually going through, but you had kind of plowed the ground and made each other ready to listen to one another. That's really powerful.
Without giving a lot of details, but I think in the moment for me, and Julie would tell you the opposite of this. For me, it was just like instant redemption, instant freedom as I was releasing this to her. And I was just like walking on water. It was just like instant, like my countenance, I think she would say, change.
But when a monkey jumps off your back, right, it's very freeing.
Oh, yeah. And I will say this is helpful to do all together and share all of them, but it's also helpful to just give words. So we used this in the healing process, and it wasn't always sit down and do the whole wheel. It was the freedom to say
in real time,
oh, I feel angry right now. If I remembered something from the past, oh, anger just hit me. Anger's happening for me right now. Fear is happening for me right now. And for him to not have to take it personally, to not have to fix it, but just again to say, oh, I get that. I see that. I have the freedom to say, I felt really hurt by you, or I feel angry at you. And I get that. Just knowing that it's about getting that out and building compassion and space for one another.
That's good. So this had a major impact on your business and on your marriage, on your life. Let's talk about, how long did it take for things to kind of clear up and get to a better place? Once the truth was out.
I mean, it took a bit, right? Because there's a sanctification process, as you know, Chris. But I think it was, I mean, I for a while like would do things and or our business would do things, and it was just stagnant, right? And I just could not understand. This is during the time I'm still, hiding things from her and all this time. I'm what's going on, right? Like, and it wasn't until the complete surrender that happened, right? Like when the Lord is like Lord over everything that's your life, your marriage, your business, I stopped just saying I'm done pushing this. I can't do this anymore, right? And this is after obviously we went through the healing process, and it was maybe November or maybe last year, I want to say November of last year, where we just experienced an explosion in our business for no reason that I can only just give credit to the good Lord that he did all this, because we did, like, obviously we were diligent. We did things that we needed to do, but doors were being closed left and right. And I just completely surrender the business to him.
I was going to just, can I respond to Carlos first? When you carry yuck, okay, people can pick up on it and they're like, no, it just pushes them away. So what I heard in your testimony, Carlos, was your hearing changed. You were listening more for what the Lord would want. You mentioned a couple of times you stopped pushing. All of that resonates to the people around you. And so it's freeing, and it's actually attracting people to you when that happens. Julie, I'm sorry I cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was going to say within a few months, we were interacting different, and I couldn't help but notice he responds to me different. We're not defensive. Like right. there was a commitment here that I could feel, even though I still was questioning maybe business things, because that was kind of always separate. So I would say but then after, 10 months to a year, I think we were really syncing together as like business or trusting each other in all areas. We had rebuilt. I was able to see his strengths, the things that he was doing. And like, I can acknowledge now he's so good at certain things that I'm not. And I just, I love watching him function in those areas. And I feel free to bring my ideas to the table too. They're just received different. And then, after that year mark of, I think it was about a year and a half or like a few months after that is when just our numbers skyrocketed. We had been a stagnant $250,000 business in a year for years when I was running it. And then we passed it off to him in that time. He was running it. And again, probably, about 5 years, just not moving, can't get over 10 employees. And within 3 months, got some new partnerships and contracts that tripled our business and continued since then.
So now you have 40 employees, and you're expanding into multiple states, looking at starting another business in real estate. So it seems like everything is changing.
Yes. And it's so fun to work together now. Having gone from times we almost called our clients and told them we were not going to be running this anymore. It's just too hard. We really enjoy working together and enough to start a new business together, like from the ground up. We are starting this one as a team, and it's been really fun.
Absolutely. I want to maybe share 2 or 3 things. And Chris, and this, you talked about how you present yourself, right? My attitude really, and I like to share this with the audience, because when I go into a business setting to try to get business or any other connection that I want to make, I go with 2 things in mind. And for me, it has been, I'm going to tell them about the kingdom of God. The second thing that I do with people is I tell them about the connection coach, because I'm a true testament of how this has been healing to our marriage. And also how we can use this in business as well, and other relationships as well. And the third thing that I do is just like, hey, can we connect in business? Can we work together? But that has become like the last thing that I think of, right? Because when you put things of God first, like all the stuff should be given to you, right? And so it's just like I don't have that pressure anymore, right? And so we can see that in what we do now. And then the second thing I would say, Chris, has been you, right? I would say your services and who you are. Like, I'm just like unashamedly just saying, like, you have been very instrumental in our healing. You have been instrumental in our finances, and you give us a kick in the bottom a few times here and there. but we're just respect you so much, and what you've done for our financial growth has been tremendous. So anyone that's listening, please, if you need help, sicker services.
And I didn't even pay you for that commercial. So it's like it was amazing. Yeah. And now what I see, and please don't think this sounds trite, but I see a marriage made in heaven. And look, I'm not saying it's perfect, but you actually both laid yourself on the altar and said, fix me. And he did. And actually, you were never broken, but he uncovered all the, can I say crap on my podcast? Got rid of all the crap. And it allowed this connection to blossom in a beautiful way. So I think it's pretty amazing. So when you look back as kids, when you were in your childhood, was there any seeds that were planted early that might explain why you both wanted to go into this entrepreneurship route, owning your own business, helping other people through business? Can you talk about that?
I one thing just popped out to my head right now. I'm like, I think it's just because I dislike control, right? And so working for someone else was just hard for me, right? Like I always could do it better. I always thought that I was I can always work harder than that person that was training me. So I would say just from a,
You know what they call that, right? You're a legend in your own mind.
so I think early on, like I was just a little rebel, right? Like I wanted to go outside the norms. I didn't think rules applied to me. And that was good and bad for the same at the same time. But I would say, yeah, I just had this mind that I wanted to always create something and help people along the way. And so that's just something that maybe my parents somehow instilled in me. I don't really remember all of my childhood, but I do know that my parents were hardworking individuals, and that was instilled in me since I was a young boy.
Yeah. I think early on, I knew I wanted to make a difference in people's lives and make an impact on society. And that was pointing me towards the nonprofit world for a long time. And I really enjoyed working in nonprofits till I realized that you need some profit to make big changes. So I think there's that, like, I realized business is such a tool. And that if I could impact people and make money, at the same time and kind of grow things that people could come into, that if, starting a business wasn't, I think maybe I had maybe a false idea about business when I was young, that it was just about money. Right. And then as I got older, realized everything we do is about people and impacting people. And it's okay to like have a business. And also the things that I had desired to do through different avenues, I could also do through business, about impacting lives and working closely with people.
So do your employees pick up on any of this change that's happened to the two of you?
I'm more operations, and I can tell you that I've used this countless of times with my employees, really trying to indoctrinate them to something like this, right? But like, if it's not the kingdom of heaven, it's this. But I'm more compassionate. I'm a more compassionate leader. I listen better. I don't react, right? Because I try to create this culture of like, hey, what is really happening in you, right? So the reason why we were able to heal is because I was able to empathize with my wife and say, hey, what's really happening for you? Like, what is triggering that? Instead of getting on the offense, like, hey, like, help me understand, right? Because that's what a kind leader and a kind person would do, right? And so I've modeled
not a pushover, but you can still walk in kindness and
right. And so I've modeled this with a lot of our employees. Our employees are grateful. I mean, we have a great culture just because of our leadership, and like really just starting with what's the emotions.
Yeah, we have great team members. I just feel like we've been brought like wonderful people to work with, and as we have opened up with them and created space to not just talk about logistics, but to hear what's driving, what motivates them, that they've really risen and done that for one another and brought themselves to the table more. So just, we have great team members. And so it's a joy to be able to use tools to help them really show up in all their strengths beyond just being amazing cleaners and really passionate about their work and caring and being proud of the company. Getting to know them as well has been such.
I always say maybe another day on that. For us, Julie talked about how we actually like working together, right? Like for me to accept my weaknesses and say, hey, babe, like I'm facing this situation where before I would never say this, right? And for me to say, hey, like what do you think? Like, I'm facing this. How should I word it? How should I talk to this employee? Like, am I coming across the right way? For me, just to confide in her with not feeling like less of a leader or trying to create this thing, or like, you're this like person that has it all together, right? Because that was me. And being vulnerable with my wife and with our people, it's just being free. And I can't even describe it. It's amazing. Really, it's amazing.
It sounds beautiful, and I wonder how many of them are actually using the connection code in their own personal lives, right? I could just see them all going home with a big thing on their refrigerator.
Yes, I don't know if they notice the difference as much, because now we know our roles, and they see Carlos a lot more. And we see them at events and things, but they notice the difference in the company, and people who have been with us from the beginning, eager to grow, also wondering why we're not growing, having all these ideas of how to grow. And now seeing we've gone from 10 to 40 people, they see the growth and they can't deny that.
So for couples listening that might be struggling with their marriage, maybe their business, right? What's one piece of advice that you feel qualified to give them based on your journey?
There was real breakthrough with these emotions sometimes when you say them out loud, if it doesn't like break instantly, keep processing that emotion. Again, there was just some time that I could only feel anger. And it wasn't until a pivotal day I felt when I thought, wow, I'm really sad. I am really sad about what we went through, how I handled that then it kind of shifted. I couldn't actually find the anger anymore, because I realized it wasn't actually anger. There was sad and there was lonely. So I think if you feel really stuck and you're doing all the work, just keep with it. And that the change that we're experiencing, I actually probably would not have thought it was possible. And my idea of punishment, which makes sense, was, also watch for that line of when you're rebuilding trust in a healthy way, and when you feel like maybe you need to be punished or somebody else needs to be punished, and make sure that once you're walking in freedom and you're receiving grace, like punishment doesn't have to have a place, and you don't have to wait for things to like look good again or to receive blessing again, that things can actually happen very quickly.
And it seems like there's such a tremendous amount of trust that has occurred between the two of you now, because you have the language and the tools to be able to share what's really going on inside. So you're not waiting for the next shoe to drop, in other words.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know if I could ever live like that again. I didn't know if I could be free of that fear. And we've passed through. And so that is possible.
I think for me, if I can speak to the men of this podcast, I would say passivity kills a lot in a connection, in your relationship, in business. So I would say to men, don't be passive about your passion and what you do in your marriage. Have brave conversations with your spouse, your significant other. Have brave conversations with employees, and don't just let things just fizzle out and like they're going to sort themselves out. Because for a while, I thought if I don't see it, it's just going to work itself out. And that has not ever happened. So don't be passive, be proactive, stay engaged, even if it's hard, pray about it, and then know that if you do the right things, like the Lord is always going to be with you.
Wow, you put such a very different spin on bravery, right? Calling it not being passive, but being vulnerable. Brave enough to be vulnerable is such an amazing strength. So, great life lessons, you two. I'm so excited for where you're going. So let's talk about what's next for Julie and Carlos. Where do you see yourselves, not only yourselves, but your business in the next 5 years? What does it look like?
I'm going to jump in on that first, because I always like have this big, audacious kind of big picture, and then Julie's going to be like, oh, that's how we're going to get there. But for me, I would say for our business, TMP Janitorial, it's really just to not only grow in numbers, which is fantastic, right? Because we get to provide more jobs, but I see us continue expanding into multiple states, multiple regions. And really, I see this as a legacy for us. Our babies are small, 4.5-year-old daughter and a 2.5-year-old boy, and then one on the way. But we're modeling something to those little guys, right? That they can see that they can do anything as long as they can dream with God, and nothing's impossible. And so for me, it's like, yes, expanding to multiple states and our second business in real estate as well. I just feel like the sky's the limit, right? And so I hope that as we continue going that trajectory, that we're going to continue just engaging with more opportunities. But that's because they come to us, right? We're not seeing them. We're open to different possibilities.
Yeah. And I hope too, there's just different interests and things on our heart that we want to do, ways that we like to serve in our community. And we've noticed as the business has grown and stabilized, we've gotten more opportunities to say yes to those things. And so as the business grows and hopefully it's real estate becomes something that's like fun and growing and evolving as well, that it's continuing to free up time for us to be present with our family and with our community and serve in those ways too, in volunteer capacities.
Absolutely.
So you really are talking about legacy, not only the legacy of your business, but what you're leaving for your children and your children's children. And that's a very dear conversation that happens a lot in my business. And, as you were talking, Carlos and Julie, I was thinking about a couple, this is years ago. They're not my clients anymore. And they just couldn't get the connection piece together at all. And one day, because they were modeling this behavior in front of their son, he was at school one day and he couldn't take it anymore. And he just pushed his head into the locker at school very hard. That wasn't even a wake-up call for them. They just were so dug in. And so what you've explained today is that there's always a way out and a way through. And it comes from really honest communication and connection and trust and faith in God. So I'm just so glad that you were able to be guests on my show today. I think many people will take valuable tips from what they heard in your story today. And I just want to bless you and thank you again.
Thanks, Chris. There's hope. And if God did it for us, he can do it for a lot of people there.
That's right. That's right. Anyone who will ask. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. No, I was going to say, Chris, this is the first time we've really kind of shared our story and had to go back and kind of dig in and like, what happened? What was the change? And I feel so much gratitude for what has happened. I also feel very humble of that we must continue to stay authentic and vulnerable, figure out what's really happening. And so it's just a great opportunity. And I feel a lot of joy being able to be here with you today. So thank you.
One last thing, when I found out what TMP stood for, I thought it was wonderful. It stands for Tidy My Place, Janitorial. So, of course, in the show notes, you'll be able to reach out to Carlos and Julie, and I hope you do. Have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you next time on Beyond the Numbers.
Beyond the Numbers podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.